Amina sat quietly on the cold floor, her back against the rough wall, her small hands clenched tightly into fists. Her eyes no longer carried the innocent curiosity of a child. Instead, they were filled with something heavier: pain, anger, and a determination she could barely understand herself. "I will not go alone," she whispered under her breath. "Everybody must pay for this price. I am no longer that shy or silly girl they think I am. I have suffered. It is high time they all pay." Upon a time, there lived a girl called Amina. Amina was an orphan who lived in an orphanage at the edge of a small town. She was barely 5 years old when a couple came to adopt her. They had no children of their own, and when they first saw her, they smiled warmly. They told the orphanage workers that they wanted to give her a good life. At first, life seemed kind to Amina. Her foster parents bought her clothes, fed her warm meals, and sometimes even carried her in their arms. For the first time in her short life, she felt like she belonged somewhere. She began to call them Mama and Papa. But everything changed the day her foster mother became pregnant. The warmth in the house slowly disappeared. The smiles faded. The small acts of kindness stopped. Amina began to feel like an unwanted shadow in the house she once believed was her home. Her foster mother no longer spoke to her gently. Every small mistake became a reason for punishment. If a plate fell, Amina was blamed. If the baby cried, Amina was blamed. If the house was not perfectly clean, Amina was blamed. But the worst moments were the ones she could not understand as a child. Her foster father began to treat her in ways that confused and frightened her. At the age of 7, Amina became something she never should have been forced to become. She didn't have the words to describe what was happening. She only knew that it made her feel scared and ashamed. One evening, with tears streaming down her face, she gathered the courage to tell her foster mother, "Mama, Papa is hurting me," she whispered. Her foster mother stared at her for a long moment. Then her face twisted with anger. "Stop this lie," she shouted. "What have we done to deserve this wickedness from you? You want to destroy my husband's reputation because you are jealous of my baby?" Before Amina could say another word, the beating began. She was dragged across the room and locked inside the small storeroom at the back of the house. The room was dark and dusty. Sometimes she stayed there for hours, sometimes for a whole day. No food, no water, only silence. After that night, something inside Amina changed. She stopped talking, not because she had nothing to say, but because she had learnt that nobody wanted to hear it. At school, the children noticed her silence. They noticed the bruises she tried to hide. But children can sometimes be cruel when they do not understand pain. They began to mock her. Amina de Mumu, they would laugh. The name followed her everywhere, in the classroom, on the road, even in the small market where she sometimes ran errands. But Amina never answered them. She simply lowered her head and walked away. At home, the suffering continued. Sometimes, when her foster father's friends came to visit, they drank late into the night. Their loud laughter echoed through the house, while Amina stayed hidden in corners, hoping nobody would notice her. But sometimes they did. And those were the nights Amina feared the most. The house that once felt like a home had become a place of danger. Days turned into months. Months turned into years. And the quiet little girl everyone called Mumu carried a pain that no child should ever carry. But deep inside her silence, Amina was watching. She watched how people behaved. She watched who believed lies and who ignored the truth. She watched how adults protected each other while children suffered in silence. And slowly, her quietness began to mean something different. The neighbors thought she was foolish because she never spoke. They did not know she remembered everything, every word, every face, every moment. And one evening, as the sun slowly disappeared behind the houses and the sky turned orange, Amina sat alone again, staring at the ground. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I will not go alone," she said again. But this time, there was something different in her tone. Not the helpless cry of a child. Something else. Something stronger. Something that had been growing quietly inside her for years. Amina was 15. By that age, her childhood had already been taken from her piece by piece. The quiet girl people mocked in the neighborhood carried secrets far heavier than anyone could imagine. She had already been forced into 3 abortions. 3 times her small body was pushed through pain she did not understand. 3 times she lay on cold clinic beds while strangers treated her like a problem that needed to disappear. No one asked her how she felt. No one asked what had happened. After each time, she returned home weaker, more silent, more broken. The first time it happened, she gathered courage again and told her foster mother. Her voice shook. "Mama, please help me." But instead of help, the response was anger. Her foster mother slapped her hard across the face. "What have I done wrong to you?" the woman shouted. "Why are you trying to destroy my family?" Amina tried to explain, her voice trembling. "It is Papa. He..." Before she could finish, the beating began again. "Stop this wicked lie!" her foster mother screamed. "You want to spoil the image of my husband. Do you know the kind of man he is? He is a nice father, a nice husband. Everyone respects him." Amina fell to the floor as the blows continued. "You will not damage the reputation of my husband," the woman yelled. "You are jealous of my family. That is why you are saying these things." Tears ran down Amina's face. "What have I done wrong to you?" she whispered weakly. But the question had no answer. The second time she tried to speak, the punishment was worse. She was locked again inside the dark storeroom without food or water. Hours passed, then a whole day, then another. By the time she was let out, something inside her had hardened. After the third abortion, Amina stopped trying to explain anything. She realized something painful. Nobody believed her. Not the woman who was supposed to protect her. Not the adults around her. Not even the neighbors who sometimes saw the bruises on her arms. To them, she was only Amina the Mumu, the quiet girl, the strange one who never spoke. So Amina made a decision. She refused to talk to anyone again. Days passed. Weeks passed. At school, she answered no questions. When teachers called her name, she simply stared at the desk. When classmates laughed at her silence, she said nothing. Inside her mind, however, everything was loud. Every memory, every word, every moment. She remembered the day she first entered that house at 5 years old, believing she had finally found a family. She remembered the first time she tried to ask for help. She remembered every time someone chose to protect an adult's reputation instead of protecting a child. One afternoon, Amina sat alone behind the house near the broken fence. The sun was setting slowly, painting the sky with soft orange light. For a long time, she stared into the distance. Her foster mother's words echoed in her mind. Do not damage the image of my husband. Amina closed her eyes. For years, they had protected an image. A respected man, a happy family, a peaceful home. But the truth lived inside her. And truth, no matter how long it is buried, does not disappear. It waits. Slowly, Amina lifted her head. Her voice was still quiet, but the words were clear. If nobody wants to hear the truth, she whispered to herself, then one day the truth will speak for itself. And somewhere deep inside the silent girl everyone mocked, a strength was beginning to grow. Not the strength of anger, but the strength of someone who had survived what many would not survive. A strength that would one day change everything. Amina was 16 when the final blow came. For years she had lived in silence, carrying pain that no one around her wanted to see. By then, her body was weak, and her spirit felt worn down from too many battles she had fought alone. One afternoon, she collapsed at school. Her teacher noticed something was wrong and insisted she be taken to a clinic. Tests were done, and hours later the result came back. Amina was HIV positive. The news spread quickly through the house when she returned. Instead of concern, her foster mother's face filled with anger. You shameless girl, she shouted. So this is what you have been doing outside? Amina tried to speak. I did not. Do not talk, the woman screamed. You want to bring disgrace into my house? Her foster father stood nearby, pretending to be shocked, acting like he knew nothing. You are a prostitute, the woman continued angrily. That is the only way a girl like you can bring such a disease into this house. Amina felt her heart sink. Once again, the truth stood in front of them, but nobody wanted to see it. What have I done wrong to you? She whispered weakly, but the answer came quickly. Leave this house, her foster mother shouted, pointing to the door. You will not destroy my family. Take your shame and go. Her small bag was thrown outside. The door slammed shut. Just like that, Amina was on the street. The place she once called home was gone. That night she slept by the roadside. The wind was cold, and the darkness felt endless. She hugged herself tightly, trying to stop the tears that kept falling. Days passed, then weeks, then months. Amina wandered through the town with nowhere to go. Some nights she slept near empty market stalls. Other nights she stayed close to church gates, hoping someone might show kindness, but many people avoided her. Word had already spread. She has HIV. She is a bad girl. She is a prostitute. Those were the names people used when they saw her. The pain slowly turned into anger. Sitting alone one evening, near the roadside, Amina wiped the tears from her face and spoke quietly to herself. "If the world has rejected me," she whispered bitterly, "then I will not suffer alone." Her voice hardened. "Anyone who comes close to me, I will make sure they carry this pain too." The anger inside her had grown from years of silence and rejection, but fate had something else waiting for her. One afternoon, tired and hungry, Amina sat quietly outside a hospital building. She leaned against the wall, staring at the ground, her body weak from exhaustion. A woman walking out of the hospital noticed her. The woman stopped. She looked closely at the young girl sitting alone. "Are you okay?" the woman asked gently. Amina did not answer at first, but the woman did not walk away. She sat beside her. "What is your name?" she asked softly. After a long silence, Amina whispered, "Amina." The woman spoke kindly. "You look like you have been through a lot." For the first time in many years, someone spoke to Amina without shouting, without accusing her. The kindness broke something inside her. Tears began to fall. Slowly, painfully, Amina began to narrate everything from the day she was taken from the orphanage, to the abuse she suffered, to the times she tried to speak but was beaten and silenced, to the abortions, to being thrown out of the house when she was diagnosed. The woman listened quietly without interrupting. When Amina finished speaking, the woman placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You are not alone anymore," she said. The woman immediately contacted social welfare services. An investigation began. When the truth finally came out, the foster father was arrested. His friends, who had also taken advantage of Amina, were tracked down and arrested as well. The foster mother, who had ignored the abuse and helped hide the truth, was also held responsible. They were all taken to court. Justice finally began to speak. Their child was taken into the care of social welfare to ensure the child would grow up in a safe environment. For the first time in her life, people believed Amina. She was placed under proper medical care and given treatment to help manage her health. Doctors and counselors supported her recovery, teaching her that HIV was not the end of her life. Slowly, Amina began to rebuild herself. The angry promise she once made to infect others faded away as she received compassion and understanding. Instead of spreading pain, she chose something different. She chose to speak. Years later, Amina became a voice for many young people who had suffered in silence. She spoke in schools, hospitals, and community programs about protecting children, believing victims, and removing the stigma around HIV. The girl once called Amina de Momo had become something powerful, an advocate, a survivor, a voice for those who were still too afraid to speak. And every time she shared her story, she ended with the same message. No child should suffer in silence. Believe them, protect them, and remember that compassion can save a life.
Thanks for watching.